Hello.
Hi, Michael.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Can everybody see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I pressed that red button at the end and it logged me off. I had to go back in again. Anyway, not sure what that button's for.
Janet Carlisle just emailed saying she can't find the link for the meeting.
It was in Melanie's previous email.
I can send it to her directly, Chair.
Thank you.
I do just want to say, if anyone's listening in from the public, waiting for the meeting to start, we're just working through a couple of technical difficulties to get all the committee members on the meeting. So we should be starting shortly.
I don't know how to add my last name, so I don't know if that's a problem.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, we're all having growing pains with the new system.
Hello, Janet. So am I okay to get started with the meeting?
I think Councillor Torrance is having a bit of an issue connecting. So
Okay.
let me just confer and I'll get back to you. So Councillor Torrance is now online, just not sure if she's able to get her camera working. Oh, she can see and hear us. That's positive.
We just want to be able to see and hear her, at least hear her. That's most important.
It looks like Josiah's also left the meeting.
Maybe he pressed the same button I did, that left it.
Okay, it looks like we have everybody on the meeting. Can everybody hear us?
Yes.
Okay, everybody has access to their camera if they'd like.
Mhm.
Okay, we do have quorum, Michael, so if you'd like to
Okay.
begin.
Oh, Josiah says they can't get their system working.
I wonder if Councillor Torrance can. Maybe not.
I think we've lost Councillor Torrance again. And Josiah's going to try and log in again.
Chair, oh, Josiah's joined. I've also just forwarded a new meeting link to both Josiah and Councillor Torrance, if that works. It was the same meeting link that I sent to Janet, so it should work.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, good. I'm here. I'm in. Sorry, guys.
not a problem. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at what time are we at? 4:09 p.m. Not too bad, not too bad with new technology and everything. So moving on, I just want to note that at any point during the meeting or now, if you have pecuniary interest in any item or feel you do, please do let us know, and we will then you'll go out of the meeting for a short bit and come back in. All right. Approval of-
Michael,
Yes.
per the minute, our my mouse not working today. Our municipal guide says that I need to declare pecuniary interest in the minutes from last time because even though I wasn't here, I won't be voting on the passing of the minutes because they include the passing of the Legion status. So I will declare pecuniary interest on the minutes if that makes sense.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to move to item 3, approval of the agenda. That the presented agenda be approved as presented. A motion, a mover and a seconder. Gary, Jonathan, all in favor? So moved. Thank you. Now we move on to the minutes. We've got Councillor Torrance's note there on the minutes. Janet Carla, your hand is up. Or is that to vote? Oh, you're muted, Janet.
I cannot turn off the hand.
Oh, no. Okay. I'll just assume you want to talk through the whole meeting then.
All right.
Okay. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes of the last meeting, noting Councillor Torrance's amendment to the minutes. Mover and a seconder, Janet. Seconder, please. Gary, all in favor? Thank you. So moved. Thank you, everyone. Now, delegations and presentations. I would like to invite Melanie Knight to present Heritage designation process for the committee's information.
Thanks, Chair. And just for the committee's information, I know we had quite the discussion in the last meeting regarding one of the designations, and there were some questions about process and procedure. So this is a very short presentation, a bit of a recap of the project that we're working on in terms of the Heritage Register. So I'll just share my screen. Assuming our new technology will work fine.
Working.
Okay. I think I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay. As long as everyone can see my screen, that's perfect. Okay, so in terms of, sorry, now here we go. In terms of the Heritage Register, so the committee will remember that, of course, we've been working on this Heritage Register for the past 2 years. But just to give some background, properties were added to the Heritage Register, and they were done so by committee and council. So primarily between 2006 and 2011. Most of the properties that we have been dealing with were added to the Heritage Register. It does require a decision of council in order for those properties to be added to the register. So new legislation was introduced by the province a few years ago through it's called Bill 23, and it was quite a big change. We've had a lot of big changes since then as well from the province, but this was one of the big changes to the Heritage Act. And what they did is they imposed a new requirement that if a property is not dealt with that was existing on the Heritage Register by January 1st, 2027, which is essentially the end of this year, that it automatically will be removed from the Heritage Register. And then a rule was also implemented that they can only be on the Heritage Register for a period of 2 years in total before designation. If the property is removed from the Heritage Register or the municipality hasn't made a decision on whether or not to designate the property, it automatically falls off the register at the end of this year, and then it cannot be added back on until 5 years has passed. And really what the Heritage Register does is it flags for the municipality and the property owner that the property may be of interest to the municipality for designation. And it essentially provides that temporary protection for the property. In many cases, it's a building that's on the property, while the municipality has time to evaluate it and determine whether or not it meets the criteria of the Heritage Act. So in terms of roles and responsibilities, we included that in the 2 reports for designation. And the roles and responsibilities really for a property owner is obviously to engage or not engage with the committee and council and staff once they're notified that that their property is being evaluated, and of course submit formal objections throughout the process if they choose to do so. The role of staff is to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the Heritage Act in terms of notification. So there's specific times where property owners need to be notified about the process of designation. We also obviously have a role to review those properties that are on the Heritage Register that council added to the list, and then recommend to Heritage Committee whether or not to proceed with designation, or recommend to Heritage Committee to have it removed from the register. And I'll give an update in this presentation as well, sort of where we're at, a bit of a status update of where we're at with the list. And the role of Heritage Committee is to review those attributes of the property with the Heritage criteria and staff's recommendation. And then Heritage Committee is able to approve, defer, or defeat staff's recommendation. So once it goes to council, if Heritage Committee has passed the recommendation, staff's recommendation, that recommendation will rise to council for their consideration. Now, council can pass Heritage Committee's recommendation. They can also pass their own motion if they don't agree with the committee's recommendation. They can consider any objections from the property owners, and I'll go through sort of key points where property owners can formally object in that process. And council obviously can also consult with staff on the recommendation that has been presented at council. So if Heritage Committee does not pass staff's recommendation, this required, we had a bit of a discussion at our last meeting about this. In speaking with other municipalities, there is no legislative standard sort of format of how municipalities deal with it. But in conversations with the clerk's department, we have figured out a process for Mississippi Mills, which is if Heritage Committee does not pass the staff recommendation, this information is going to be provided to council via Heritage Committee minutes, which is what is always provided to council, as well as including in that will be an explanatory memo from staff just to explain the situation. So staff had a recommendation and Heritage Committee did not pass it. And just the same as if Heritage Committee passes staff's recommendation, if Heritage Committee does not pass staff's recommendation, council has their own discretion to make their own decision. So they can either pass their own motion, they can agree with Heritage Committee and not proceed with designation. So council really has the ultimate discretion, but does rely, of course, and take into consideration what Heritage Committee has recommended to them. So in terms of sort of a process step, when staff bring forward a report to Heritage Committee regarding a recommendation about the Heritage Register, we're at step 6 here on the process flow, if you can see my mouse moving. So we're at this step here, and then it would follow through to committee and council about what following through the details I just provided an overview for. The red stars are areas where property owners are able to formally provide objections through the process. And that's if the staff recommendation is to designate, Heritage Committee has passed that recommendation and pass it on to council, and then council has also passed that same motion. So two key areas where, and that's statutory objections. Of course, before step 6, staff have engaged with every property owner and have had conversations with them about the staff recommendation. So just to provide a recap, this is the list of the properties that are currently on the Heritage Register and where we're at. So the ones that are struck through are ones where we have brought forward reports recommending that they actually be removed from the register. The ones with check marks are ones that Heritage Committee has decided upon. I will note that the Teskey House is on the check mark, and that is something that's being presented today. In terms of the churches that are on the list, I'll give you a little bit of preview that staff are currently trying to determine when those were actually formally added to the Heritage Register, and we'll be bringing forward a report in that regard. If we cannot find evidence that they're added to the register, they were formally added by council, they may actually be not considered to be even part of the register ever. But we will bring forward a report about that in the future. And I think that is the end of my presentation. Yes.
Thank you, Melanie. Does anyone have any questions for Melanie before we move on through the meeting?
Just one question there, Chair.
Sure.
And once a property has been designated, is there a process by which it can become undesignated, or is that a permanent understanding that the registry itself is temporary?
Through you, Chair, no, there is a process to, I guess you would call it, de-designate a property. That is possible. There's also a process to amend the designation as well. So if a property owner, perhaps a new one, would like the designation modified, or perhaps something has happened on the property, you know, be it a fire or something, you know, something of that nature. We did have one come forward to Heritage Committee, I believe before you joined the committee, Jay, and that was a property that was being severed. Actually, it was a large farm parcel, and the notable heritage features was the farmhouse, and portion of the property was being severed. And so part of that was going through the process of removing the designation from the severed portion of the property, which was a vacant sort of remnant parcel of the farm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Josiah.
Yeah, just to clarify, I guess that the end of year deadline, is that a deadline for council to make a motion or make a decision on designation, or is it the appeals process has to be completed by the end of year?
Through you, Chair. From what I understand off the top of my head with legislation, it is for the council to make a decision, not for necessarily the appeal process. But yes, council needs to pass that, has to make a final decision on it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to move now into item 6, staff reports and heritage applications. I'd like to ask Drew Brennan, senior planner, to present this proposed designation of 492 River Road, Teskey House.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if someone could just confirm that they can both hear me and see my screen.
Yes.
Thank you, and welcome to Microsoft Teams. I'm much more in my element in this rather than Zoom. So the first proposed designation being considered here is 492 River Road, otherwise known as the Teskey House. Melanie just gave a great overview of the purpose of our project here, but just for people who may have just tuned in, essentially the province has made legislative amendments requiring the municipality to clear its heritage register, either through designation or dropping the properties from the register. It's important to note that once a property is removed from the register, it can't be added back for at least 5 years. Here we can see the subject property outlined in blue. It is 492 River Road, notably located in Appleton. The property has direct sight lines to the Mississippi. The main house was built in 1837 with the kitchen and carriage house added in 1842 to 1844. The original occupants were Joseph and Margaret Teskey, and is constructed of quarried limestone and built in Georgian classicism style, pardon me. As with all the properties that are being examined, the municipality did send an initial letter in 2024 and have since done additional consultation with the property owners. During this period of time, the subject property was listed for sale. We have had productive conversations with the property owner as well as their realtor, just addressing questions regarding the designation process as well as the benefits of designation itself. Based on our latest conversation with the property owners, our understanding is that they are not opposed to designation. However, recognizing that the process of selling a property is a constant state of flux, I don't want to presuppose that that position is currently how they feel today. So I did see that the property owner is on the meeting here, and we'll have an opportunity to give committee an update following my presentation. It is important to note, as we've discussed through previous potential designations, that designation under the Act does not explicitly require the property owner's consent. However, the municipality does take every effort to engage with the property owners to address any concerns that they may have associated with designation. Under regulation of the Ontario Heritage Act, there are 9 different criteria to consider when evaluating a property for designation. Staff are of the opinion that the subject property meets 7 of the 9 criteria. The Cultural Heritage Evaluation Report goes into great detail on these 7 criteria. However, I will provide a very brief overview of each. Criteria 1, the property has design value or physical value because it is rare, unique, representative, or an early example of a style, type, expression, material, or construction method. So the building on the subject property is a prime example of Georgian classicism, with side gable roofs and central hallways, with entrances often highlighted by fan lights and side lights. Criteria 2, the property has design value or physical value because it displays a high degree of craftsmanship or artistic merit. The subject building was constructed by local craftsmen in 1937 and 1844, pardon me. And its multi-paneled windows, front door with side lights, and elliptical fan light are sophisticated elements of this style. Here on the picture on the right, we can just see an example of that elliptical fan light, which could otherwise be known as a transom. Criteria 4, the property has associations with a theme, event, belief, person, activity, organization, or institution that is significant to a community. Joseph Teskey was an Irish Palatine who emigrated from Ireland with his parents as part of the first sponsored emigration organized by Peter Robinson. And these settlers played a prominent role in the early history of Ramsey Township. As one of the other committee members could probably tell you, the mills in Appleton are a prominent component of the fabric of Ramsey. Criteria 5, the property has historical or associative value because it yields or has the potential to yield information that contributes to an understanding of community or culture. The Teskey House has links to the Teskey family who settled the land that became Appleton in 1823 after their arrival in Upper Canada. Criteria 7, the property is important in defining, maintaining, or supporting the character of an area. The subject property and the dwelling helps define the character of the small village of Appleton as it's located on a main thoroughfare, being River Road, as well as it overlooks the former mill sites that once dominated the village. Criteria 8, the property has contextual value because it is physically, functionally, visually, or historically linked to its surroundings. The subject property and the dwelling are physically linked to its surroundings as it overlooks the Mississippi River and is the former site of Joseph Teskey's grist mill. The house's proximity to the mills reinforces Teskey's role as an employer and leader in the community. And finally, criteria 9, the property has contextual value because it is a landmark. It's a large lot on River Road facing the Mississippi River and is unique in architecture in part due to its L shape and attractive front fence garden. With that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Drew. Any questions? Sandra?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wondered what the situation is if a beautiful property like this is up for designation and its owners are in favor of it if it goes through. How does that affect the sale of the house? I mean, it is for sale. Does that, and maybe somebody who wants to buy it doesn't want it designated. I just wondered where things would stand if that was to happen.
So through the chair, I can just see the owner of the property has added a note. So maybe that'd be a good segue to give them an opportunity just to speak to their current process with the sale of the home.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So obviously we bought this house because of its character. It's a beautiful home. It is across from the old mill, and all the criteria you guys talked about is correct. Much of it is overlapping, which is a testament to Mr. Teskey himself and the family. I know it takes a village, and this is probably a testament of where it stood when he came from Ireland, when they created the village. I understand that. The only issue we have is it won't be our house forever. It's been on the market for a long time. And I believe, Jonathan, it would affect the sale of the house, as you mentioned. And we're actually looking after what the next owner might want. We're not in favor, we're not against. I've never said I'm in favor of this, but to be forced by a new law to go heritage kind of leaves a sour taste in our mouth. It might deserve to be heritage, that's fine. I understand that. But to come in and have committees and have council and everybody involved in controlling the destiny of this house and the next family is just a little difficult to hear.
To have somebody on our property taking pictures really is not,
You're loud. Anyhow, that's where we stand. That's where we stand.
It's about being forced into this. That's not cool.
So obviously the next step is for us to appeal it, but we don't know if appealing it's the right thing to do. I think the timeline is just unfortunate that the next owner doesn't have a say in it.
And as you know, we're trying to sell. And it's a huge barrier to somebody that doesn't have enough information or hasn't been responded to. And it's a barrier.
Mm-hmm. So as I think Drew mentioned, there's some positives to becoming heritage. Obviously, it's good for the community. We've looked at the two positives, and one is, both of them are financial. One is you can apply for grants, right? We know that. The formula and someone who's buying this house could not do the math on that. Everything's a potential. We don't know who else has applied. We know there's a certain amount that's going to be divvied up. Whoever applies first has, guaranteed money. So I don't know for 2027 if that process has already started with other houses. So whoever's gonna buy this place can be assured not to have the next, next year's grants. And then the tax calculation, it's again not guaranteed. So no one can be guaranteed to have a worthy financial impact or financial help by having to change all these windows. Like $5,000 towards $100,000 windows, that's not going to go very far. Like that's the maximum for one application, right? That's not going to go very far for $100,000 when they're told what kind of windows to buy. If they weren't told what kind of windows to buy, that might be a lot cheaper. So that's just what the next buyer has to contend with. So I don't know what to do here.
Thank you. I'm looking for if any of those questions or comments could be answered by staff.
Through the chair, I'm not sure if I heard a question there, but I will just acknowledge that what was conveyed to both Jay and Lisa with regards to potential benefits to designation were specifically our Heritage Grant Program as well as our Heritage Tax Relief Program. So just to give you an overview of the grant program specifically, the municipality budgets a certain amount every year for eligible projects for heritage designated buildings, and it's divvied up on a first come first served basis in terms of receiving applications. So if an application is received in 2026, for example, we would consider it against our current allotment of funding. So generally you're restricted to what's available in that year. Of course, we would give feedback in terms of there's not enough funding available for what you want to do. You could submit for a later year. And funding is capped at a maximum of $5,000 or 50% of the value of the project, whichever is less. And then our tax department does offer a separate tax relief program for heritage designated properties. Our bylaw does include the calculation as to what that benefit is. But I will say again, there is a maximum cap on the available funds put towards that program year over year. So there is a finite amount of funding available for both programs.
Gary?
So then, sorry to interject. So the question is, how does the next buyer look at the situation as a positive?
Through the chair. So there's two different aspects you could look at it. So the future buyer could view those two programs as a potential source of funding for projects. I know windows are a good example of something that's maybe on the higher end of the spectrum for work that could be eligible, but there are smaller projects that could be eligible for that funding, and you're not restricted to just one lifetime application for the entirety of the property. So if you have multiple projects that you want to work on over a number of years, each year you can apply for those separate projects. And then the other aspect that some may see as a benefit is just the cultural heritage value of protecting the home, wanting to live in that designated property, as well as be the steward for it. So there's an economic and then a social benefit to it.
Gary?
Yeah, I just want to have a clear understanding, because I thought in the end this designation just meant that you can't tear that building down. When push came to the shove, that's what it meant. You couldn't tear it down. I thought this about the windows and all that was more of it was not like obligatory, and that was my understanding. Am I wrong? Maybe Drew?
So through the chair, through the designation process, a statement of cultural heritage significance is prepared and registered on title for the subject property. So that statement will outline the specific factors of a property that do have cultural heritage significance. When a property owner wants to make an alteration to a property that directly affects those elements, consultation with the municipality is required, and ultimately a heritage permit may be required, which would require approval from Heritage Advisory Committee. So sometimes you'll see in the statements certain elements are explicitly excluded from a statement, meaning that if someone wants to alter something more contemporary on the property, there's not a requirement for a heritage permit. So it gives us a framework to work on in terms of what needs one and what doesn't. Generally, any interiors are excluded from designation. And then there are other examples of other elements, again, contemporary additions to a property that wouldn't be considered through the statement.
So the answer is yes, the town can dictate, the type and material of the windows.
Through the chair, I think the interpretation of the application of heritage requirements differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, so municipality to municipality. In my time being with the municipality and working with Sally, I think we take a fairly flexible approach, recognizing that stewardship of a heritage property is an extremely financially strenuous task, and that there are certain heritage elements that require interpretation on what's suitable to maintain that cultural heritage value. For an example, I've been in a call with Sally where someone wanted to replace a cedar roof that the property owner was quoting a certain amount to have replaced to its full specification. However, through discussions, we were able to spec out a lower costing product that maintained the intent of that cedar roof, but at a reduced cost. So I would say Mississippi Mills approach is much more working with the property owner to land on something that both values the cultural heritage value of the property, but is also sustainable for the property owners long term.
So just one more point. Jay, if you look across the river, that's the house I live on, and so we've already changed our windows. We've got nice vinyl windows in there. So now if we became a heritage property, I guess it's from this point on, so the windows aren't applicable anymore. So if what I'm saying is if Jay wanted to change the windows and then become a heritage property, then he wouldn't have to deal with the window mess. Isn't that correct?
You're correct. So I'm trying to sell the house. Sorry to interject. The question was to me directly, Drew.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell and I'm looking out for the next guy, Gary.
No, I get it. And I think that's where I hesitated in doing this whole thing. And part of the reason I came on the Heritage Committee, because I was so concerned about these types of things. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Just the money in the windows makes it almost prohibitive. And, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
So
we did look into the insurance thing, and insurance-wise, they didn't seem to have a problem with that. They said that it wasn't going to increase the rates in that sense. So
right. So we have questions about changing the composition of the columns. Was an example that was used. So somebody was, I forget, Drew was on the call and said, listen, an example is taking all the columns off the front of my house, which are hardwood, and changing them for plastic. They would look the same, but it's not the same. So the idea was you should change them for wood. Even though plastic with metal poles that will last forever, you got to kind of keep it historical. You can't be changing whatever you want. And the new windows, you could put new windows that look the same. They won't have weights in the walls. They won't have the rope. They won't have all the fancy stuff. But you should have white windows with the same amount of squares. So when you're standing on the road, the house looks the same, right? That was the idea.
I just want to jump in and clarify something, following up on what Drew had said. In reality, we've had many applicants come forward and we have approved them replacing with modern windows or replacing pillars or different aspects if it's the best way to go. It has not been off the table. There are preferences, but it really depends on where things are at and what's best for the property, what's best for the owner, and what's best for the community. And we do our best to work with, not to dictate. So I do think that's I believe I'm stating that pretty correctly in a very simple manner. Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I pass the house regularly and I always admire it. My question is there a historical history of use of the grant, or how popular is it? And this is, I guess, for staff. Is it exhausted on an annual basis, or how popular is it with the local heritage requirements?
Through you, Chair, I say that it is generally used almost exhausted every year, if not completely exhausted every year. We are also in the process right now of reviewing both grant programs that we have, so the Heritage Grant Program as well as the Tax Rebate Program, because they have not been updated in many years, if I may even say a decade or more. So they are overdue for a review, one to look at eligibility, but also to look at how much the funds are dedicated to each program. And so we will be coming forward with recommendations to council through the 2027 budget process of updating those grant programs. But generally speaking, I know the tax program is exhausted every year. And then the grant program, generally speaking, is used up every year as well.
And again, I just reiterate like what you said, Melanie. I think it's always something that can be reassessed and look at, do we need to grow that pot and propose that to council, et cetera.
What is the tax budget per year?
It's a calculation. It's from 10 to 40%. I'm not sure the range. How do they gauge the 10 to 40%? I don't know that.
Through you, Chair, I don't have those details right now, but I certainly can forward them on to the property owners after the meeting.
That's what the calculation says somehow. It's to someone's discretion.
Thank you. Josiah.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, we've been kind of talking around windows. Is there any indication that major work is upcoming at the building, either by the current owners or as part of the sale or after sale? Or is this kind of a just suggested concept? Yeah.
So if I may, some potential buyers were asking about it. And it would be a requirement on their part. So that's why
as a condition of sale.
Yeah, it's $100,000 they're saying. And the 5,000, I mean, unless they do it over 4 years and then they get 20,000 if they get the maximum every year, if that's allowed, I don't know, but it's almost a requirement. The propane bill is crazy here, and that's why.
And certainly they can put an application in, and certainly in past we have approved having windows replaced, so it's not totally off the table.
Right.
Drew?
Through the chair, I just want to note too, for the property owner's benefit as well as committee, that should committee recommend designation to council and council proceed through the steps to notice intention of designate, bylaws passed appeal period. During that period, there's no requirement for a heritage permit for the elements identified within the statement of cultural heritage value. So for example, I believe the windows are explicitly denoted on the statement as it's currently drafted. So if there was a buyer interested in doing it in the short term, they could do so without the requirement for a heritage permit. I understand that imposes certain timelines, but I just wanted to make sure that information was provided.
I don't think a buyer is gonna want to change the look of the house.
Hmm.
I hope not. And that's the whole reason why we're all together today, right?
Yep.
It's a preservation of the house.
What are
Josiah,
the timelines right now?
Sorry.
Josiah?
Yeah, I was gonna, maybe related to timelines, I was gonna put forward the idea that if would deferral of this decision, we're kind of up against a deadline with provincial government regulation changes, but would deferral of a deadline of this decision actually be a benefit as far as the sale goes, or, you know, would a pending designation be just as cumbersome, I'll say, as going forward at this time?
You're right. And when there's no answer, it's probably as detrimental.
Because we still have to acknowledge that this is on the agenda for anyone that's interested in this home. And that's why our last offer has not come through, because they're worried about it.
No, it's the uncertainty, right? So. And we can't phone them. It's just unfortunate. We can't phone them. It's just the real estate game and ask them how they feel. I've offered and anyway. It doesn't cost them money. I understand that. Anyway.
Thank you. Any other questions and comments before we proceed with the meeting?
What are our next steps?
Well, do you want to go with it or you're fighting it?
I don't know.
Exactly.
We need to talk. What are our next steps?
Melanie?
Chair, I just see Councillor Torrance's hand is up, but
Oh, okay.
I will just remind committee that there is a staff recommendation as part of this.
Councillor Torrance.
Could I please know how long has it already been on the register, and was it on the register, Mr. and Mrs. Pilon, when you bought the property? These things don't just appear. So how long has it been on the register for?
So if it was on the register, we weren't made aware
Sorry,
of it.
I'm asking staff, you know, that it would have been by motion of council that it was on the register, and it should be on your title someplace. But I'm just curious, Melanie, how long it's been on the register for?
Through you, Chair, it's been on the register since 2008 by council resolution. However, being on the Heritage Register is not on title. It's only when it's designated the bylaws on title, but it has been on the register since 2008.
And when did you buy the house, Mr. Pilon?
2023.
Okay.
We were not made aware.
No.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm. We were actually concerned when we bought it. And here we are.
2008, and we weren't acknowledged, like it wasn't acknowledged to us.
That might have been our agent's problem, I guess.
No, I think it's the Mississippi Mills.
Well, they might have told other people. Anyway.
We're not highly opposed. We're just not liking being told. This is our home, and when you're being told to do something, it's not cool. So 2008 is a long time ago.
Thank you for your feedback. That's appreciated. I'd like to move on to the recommended motion that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommends council issue a notice of intention to designate 492 River Road under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, similar in effect to the Statement of Cultural Heritage Value in Attachment A. I'm looking for a new second for that motion. Jonathan, Josiah, all in favor? Any opposed? It looks like the motion has passed. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for attending the meeting. I'd like to now move on to the next property. I'd like to invite Drew Brennan, Senior Planner, to present. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to share my screen again. Again, if someone wouldn't mind, give me a thumbs up that they can both hear me and see my screen. Perfect. Thank you so much. So the second property being considered tonight for heritage designation is 34, 36, and 38 Mill Street, otherwise known as the Blackwatch Building. I do want to clarify that although the entirety of the building is being considered, it's actually made up of 3 different freehold parcels, thus the 3 different civic addresses. So we may get into that just a little bit more during my presentation. Again, given legislative changes, municipalities are now required to examine their registers to essentially clear them, either designating those properties on the register or dropping them. It's important to note if they are dropped, they can't be added back to the register at least for a period of 5 years. Here we can see the subject property outlined in blue on the screen. Again, it's 3 separate properties, but one building. It was constructed in the early 20th century. It's well known for its distinctive wall signs, specifically saying Blackwatch Chewing Tobacco, as well as A Man's Chew. It strongly contributes to the distinctive character of Almont's historic downtown. And to that point, it's worth noting that these properties are also designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act, as they are within Almont's Downtown Heritage Conservation District. As with all properties subject to this project, they were sent a letter in 2024, and subsequent consultation has occurred in the time since. As I stated before, these are 3 separate properties, so there was 3 separate consultation processes ongoing with each property owner. We were successful in contacting 2 of the 3 property owners. The third was sent emails as well as registered mail, asking for the opportunity to discuss any concerns that they might have regarding the designation process. However, we did not receive a response. The other 2, one provided comment that they had no concerns, and the last did ask for a meeting with staff just to discuss potential questions in terms of the implications of designation both under Part 4 and Part 5 of the building, but they ultimately did not have any concerns with the proposed designation. Just as a point of clarity, any alterations to the exterior of the building generally requires review of the HCD plan to determine if a permit is required. Designation under Part 4 would provide that targeted list of cultural heritage elements on the property that would require specific attention when reviewing proposals to alter the exterior of the building. Here we can see the frontage of the building from Mill Street in the image on the screen. The Ontario Heritage Act provides criteria that needs to be considered when evaluating a property for designation under the Act. Staff are the opinion based on the Cultural Heritage Evaluation Report that the subject properties meet 5 of the 9 criteria. The evaluation report does provide more analysis with regards to these criteria, but I will provide a very brief overview of each for committee's benefit. Criteria 1, the property has design value or physical value because it's a rare, unique, representative, or early example of a style, type, expression, material, or construction method. The subject building is an example of a late 19th, early 20th century Main Street commercial building. Specifically has 2 stories, a flat roof, and a building with a cornice and decorative brickwork. As we could see clearly in the last photo, the storefronts feature large glass display windows and recessed doorways. Criteria 5, the property has historical or associative value because it yields or has the potential to yield information that contributes to an understanding of a community or culture. The building reflects Almont's transformation from a small grist town to an industrial hub with a thriving Main Street. Of course, Mill Street operates as the heart of the community as well as the downtown. Criteria 7, the property is important in defining, maintaining, or supporting the character of the area. So as I previously stated, the subject properties are already subject to the Downtown Almont Heritage Conservation District. In fact, the entire frontage of Mill Street is included within the HCD. Alignment of the building directly on the front property line contributes to a cohesive and visually appealing streetscape within that HCD. Criteria 8, the property has contextual value because it is physically, functionally, visually, or historically linked to its surrounding. This is one of many structures that line Mill Street and Almont's historic Main Street. Similarly, it shares common retail use and historic location with these other buildings. In criteria 9, the property has contextual value because it is a landmark. Of course, the distinctive Black Watch advertisement painted on the west facade serves as a landmark. In fact, painted commercial wall signs were common in the 19th and 20th century. However, obviously, few remain. And with that, staff are recommending designation. I will just say, due to some technical difficulties, the statement of cultural heritage value was actually not provided in the agenda. So for committee's benefit, I'm actually going to share my screen and read the statement, and the recommended motion is going to be amended just to reflect what's going to be shared with committee just in a second here. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to pull this up and share my screen again. Luckily, it's fairly short, so you won't have to listen to me much longer. And if I can get a thumbs up when everyone can see that again.
You're good.
Okay, awesome. There we go. The cultural heritage value of the Black Watch building lies in the building being a good example of early 20th century commercial architecture, its traditional function as part of Almont's Main Street, and the commercial history of the town. It contributes to the distinctive character of Almont's historic core and is included in the Downtown Almont Heritage Conservation District. The Black Watch building has design value as a Main Street commercial structure. It is part of a street wall featuring buildings set flush against the sidewalk running east to Bridge Street. A flat-roofed, two-story structure, it is divided into 3 storefronts, each with a ground-level entrance and 3 large second-floor windows featuring stone sills and lintels. Brick pilasters separate the building sections, while decorative coursing defines the cornice. A pressed metal secondary cornice separates the first and second stories. The west wall is painted with a large advertisement for Black Watch chewing tobacco, and there is a faint "Go" sign with the word Shamrock also evident on the wall. The Black Watch building has historical value because of its function as part of Mill Street, Almont's leading commercial street. As the third building on the lot, it was constructed in 1909 to 1910, soon after a fire destroyed the 3-story brick building previously on the site, which had also replaced a mid-19th century building destroyed by fire. The decision to rebuild quickly reflects the importance of the lost businesses to Almont's main commercial street. The Black Watch building has contextual value through its location on Mill Street, Almont's historic Main Street, and a well-preserved cultural heritage landscape. Since the early 19th century, Mill Street has played an important role in the town's economic and social life. Home to a wide range of small businesses and many of Almont's earliest mills, it has also long served as a gathering place and the setting for public celebrations such as parades. Description of heritage elements. Key exterior elements that contribute to the heritage value of the Black Watch building. 34, 36, 38 Mill Street as a good example of early 20th century commercial Main Street architecture include 2-story massing with flat roof, 3-bay front facade with each bay occupied by a different business, simple brick pilasters dividing the upper story into 3 and marking the corners, red brick exterior cladding laid in common bond, remaining elements of the original storefronts in evidence at 36 Mill Street, scalloped metal structure cornice with brackets and semicircular rosettes separating first and second stories, decorative brick coursing at the roofline, painted Black Watch chewing tobacco sign with Shamrock Ghost sign evident underneath, location on a bend in Mill Street on the front property line. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Drew. Any questions for Drew? Jonathan, and then Nate.
Thanks, Chair. As the Black Watch sign itself is quite prominent, and the building itself is 3 different ownership, who is responsible then for that, the Black Watch? How would something like that play out?
Through the chair, the Black Watch sign being located on the end cap of the building is specifically associated with 34 Mill Street. So for example, if a heritage permit application was proposed for 38 Mill Street, there'd be little consideration for the Black Watch sign on the opposite side of the building. Specifically, the majority of the responsibility associated with that sign would fall on the property owners of 34 Mill Street with regards to any alterations that they wish to make. I think it's important to note that through designation under Part 4, there's no expectation of maintenance associated with the designation. So there's not any heightened standard of property care that's imposed through designation. It's more so when alteration is proposed, we need to have consideration for the statement that's registered on title.
Thank you.
Nate.
I have a question about the neighboring property, the garage. I believe it's 30 Mill Street. If we're trying to protect a mural and the property next door owner decides to develop and build right to the lot line and build to the neighboring wall, is there a way to kind of integrate?
Freeman past the Alonzo Wright Bridge. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the 417s westbound back.
Like how do we view that a neighboring property that could possibly cover up that mural? Would it be designating a separate property in another process, or how would that work?
Good question, Nate. Melanie or Drew?
Through Chair, really what it would come down to is the trigger for the vacant land to be redeveloped. If you're adjacent to a designated building, they would have to provide a cultural heritage impact statement as part of the redevelopment proposal of the vacant property. And that would include consideration of the designation of the building, including the Black Watch sign. So lots of good examples of how design can include, landmarks like this, whether it be glass walls or, spaces in between buildings and stuff like that, to still keep that the intent of the designation upheld. But it really would come down to a cultural heritage impact statement for the proposed development to address it and to assess the impact on the designated property adjacent to it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions before we proceed? Josiah.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't quite getting the list that Drew read at the end. Those were proposed attributes that would be used in future designation?
Through the chair, so that's correct. What I read was the proposed statement of cultural heritage value, and the elements would be those specifically protected through the designation. I will note, as it was intended, the recommendation said in similar effect. to that statement. So there's opportunity to make amendments should committee feel there's certain things that are left out.
Yeah, I'd make one comment on one of the attributes noted is the 3-bay storefront with 3 separated businesses, and from some experience, designating the operational aspects of a property, like having 3 businesses operate within it, is a difficult thing to do, and I would not recommend in my experience. So I'd like to see that reviewed before it went forward to designation.
Through you, Chair. I think that's a fair observation. It certainly could be construed differently when it's mentioned in a designation like that. So we'll take that back and make sure that it's clear that that's the use of the property is dictated by zoning and official plan policies. It's not dictated by heritage designations. So fair point.
Thank you, Josiah. I'm glad you caught that. Any other questions?
That's a great catch, Josiah.
So I'm going to move forward with a proposed motion that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommends Council issue a notice of intention to designate 34, 36, and 38 Mill Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, similar in effect to the Statement of Cultural Heritage Value presented by staff. Look for a movement. Josiah? Jonathan? All in favor? So moved. Thank you, everyone. Now I'd like to move on to major heritage permit application of 38 Mill Street. Drew Brennan, Senior Planner, to present the major heritage application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last one from me. If someone wouldn't mind just give me a thumbs up that they can hear me and see my screen. Perfect. So staying on the topic of 38 Mill, this is heritage permit application RO1-756-25. So the purpose and effect of this major heritage application is to obtain approval for the installation of a non-illuminated commercial wall sign. So just to back up a second, this heritage permit application was submitted in 2025. Committee may recall that it is the proposed signage for Canada Post for their new retail operation out of 38 Mill. 38 Mill is the opposite end cap of the Black Watch sign. Again, Canada Post has recently relocated specifically their retail component of their operation to this location and would like to install new commercial signage on the property to clearly denote that function. As we just previously discussed, the property is currently designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act, as is within our HCD. It's worth noting that the property is identified as being strongly contributing. Here we can see the existing context. So we were discussing, the 3 separate commercial storefronts. Obviously, 38 Mill is likely the one that's undergone the most alteration. Specifically, it's now lacking that glassed storefront and the recessed entry, as those have been altered. On the left, we can see the initial submission from Canada Post in terms of what they're looking for their commercial signage. It's worth noting that the HCD plan doesn't explicitly regulate font, size, colors, etc. However, there is an overall requirement to be compatible with the HCD and the host building in general. So based on that guidance, Heritage Advisory Committee did provide some comments back to Canada Post in terms of revisions that they would like to see. So specifically, increasing the size of the post office font, decreasing the size of the logo associated with the sign, removing the letterbox details. There was a post box that was shown on the elevation with their last submission, so that's been removed. as well as committee was looking for the sign to better align with the neighboring signs on the other storefronts of the Black Watch building. In light of that commentary, Canada Post has put forward an alternate proposal. We can see it here on the right. So again, increasing the size of the font of the post office and its counterpart in French to mirror the size of the font on the other signs on the Black Watch building. Decreasing the size of the Canada Post logo itself, it's now proposed to be a separate sign that is much smaller and lower on the facade of the storefront, as well as we can see the updated door that was installed per another heritage permit application approved by Heritage Committee last year. Here we can see an overview of the revised design just in conjunction with the other signs on the Black Watch building. Again, noting that the font is much more in keeping with the size of those other signs. So the requirement for a major heritage permit is explicitly defined by the HCD plan for new commercial signage. Again, contemporary designs are encouraged. There's not a need for it to look historic, but there is an overall expectation that they are compatible with the host building and the overall HCD. And it does provide general guidance that the cornice is generally the most appropriate location for this sort of signage. And so with that, staff are recommending approval in accordance with the recommendations shown on the screen. That concludes my presentation.
Councillor Torrance.
I'm really happy to move the recommendation, and also really happy to see, you know, we asked Canada Post to do a bit better, and they did. I think that I'm really surprised at how well they have come back to us, and I'm pleased with the sign that they're proposing. So kudos to them.
Thank you. So I'll just read out the motion for everyone just to make sure that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommend Council approve the major heritage permit to install commercial non-illuminated wall signs on the subject lands municipally known as 38 Mill Street, Elmont Ward, Municipality Mississippi Mills. I have Councillor Torrance moving the motion. Do I have a seconder? Jonathan, all in favor? So moved. Thank you, everyone. Now we're getting near the end now. All right. So business arising out of the minutes. I just wanted to refer to Melanie on the Methodist Cemetery update.
Thanks, Chair. We did have a conversation about this at our last meeting, and Gary has reached out to Stephen Blades, Keith Blades about some restoration and stuff. We're going back and forth on emails and status of the work that Keith Blades students did, as well as connecting with our recreation manager, Calvin Murphy. So we'll report back when we have more information at the next, well, not the next Heritage meeting, but the August Heritage meeting.
Thank you, Melanie. Any other business, any council update or anything there, Councillor Torrance?
Once again, I'm ill prepared for this question, having spent 3 years not having this on the agenda. I promise I'll think about it before the 10th of June. Okay, so I'll be. But I actually, Melanie, back to the cemetery, are you going to put any money into the budget? Because I know if we are waiting until August, you will have gone through the first round of budgets with the treasurer by then. Will you put anything into the budget for this?
Through you, Chair, technically it's under recreation, but I will speak to Mr. Murphy about adding something into the budget.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing, Melanie, and I guess this is a council update a bit. I was really pleasantly surprised the meeting before, when we talked about who was going to go to the Heritage conference. And do we have enough money in the budget that you will be presenting to the treasurer this summer in case more than one person wants to go? I mean, I think it's great that we have an active committee and who is interested. So can we up that amount a little bit?
I can definitely include that as a proposal for the treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to note too that Keith Blades said that he should have something in the next week or two to us to present to the committee of what he's pulled together. So I'm very much looking forward to that and pleased that he's still working on that and glad to get that update from him. Moving on then to information and new business, Pakenham 5-span bridge. There's now a live video feed that you can watch. There's a link in the information package, so check that out. Kind of neat to see how it's going and watch the progress on that restoration work. So then finally, next we move to meetings. Due to limited amount of time of staff and the committee to evaluate and review the remaining Heritage Registry properties, there will be a special advisory committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, June 10th at 4 p.m. to approve these minutes so they can go forward to council. So I just wanted to confirm who's available to attend that meeting on June 10th next week at 4 p.m. So far, yeah.
I was just going to say, I hope to, but I can't absolutely confirm at this point because I'm out most of that day. Hopefully I'll be back by then, but can I confirm nearer the time?
Yes.
You can be like me, Sandra, and take the meeting in the car.
That's right.
a good idea. Yeah, I thought that. I'm in the backyard right now, so we may as well. Okay.
Hate to put it
I
on
will do
everyone
my
short,
best.
such short. Yeah, I hate to put such short notice on everyone, but jump in if anyone.
If I may, Chair, the meeting will be very short. The only thing on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes. It's a bit of a process piece that we do have to have done because we'd like to get the minutes to council before the July break.
Okay.
Do we have any provision for approval of minutes online through email voting? I don't think so, Melanie, but
I don't believe so. No, I would have to. No, I don't believe so. No.
Yeah.
As long as we have a quorum, we can, like I said, the time commitment is very quick, probably 5 minutes or less for the meeting.
Yeah, I'll be
I'm
able to
available,
attend
so I'm not sure how many other you need for quorum.
Chair, if folks can just maybe confirm over email too, if you haven't done so already, and confirm with Jennifer, then we can go from there.
Thank you.
Me and Jonathan can each vote twice if that would help.
There you go. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm just going to adjourn the meeting now at what time are we at now? 5:23. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I just
Thank
want
you.
to, now that we're adjourned, I want to tell everybody I'm on my way to Crichton House, which is the British High Commission, because Earnscliffe is closed. So anyways, I'm going to see a really cool house today, and I'm pretty excited about it. So I've got to find a Tim Hortons so I can get into my cocktail dress. I don't know if that's what that's going to look like.
Wow.
You're going to try and get some pics for us?
Yes, please take some photos.
I will, because it should be a great house to see. So, okay, bye guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.